Welcome to Speak the Truth. My name is Gary Johnson. It's November 14th, 2021. And here on the Speak the Truth program, we've got a nice lineup here. We've got Mr. CJ, our co-host. But before we talk to CJ and our other guest, Mr. Chevalier, and of course, Mr. Bell, I think we ought to talk about and frame the show with one of our favorites, Professor Eddie Glaude Jr. And let's listen to the professor, how he talks about where we are in this country.
America's not unique in its sins as a country. We're not unique in our evils, to be honest with you. I think where we may be singular is our refusal to acknowledge them. And the legends and myths we tell about our inherent, goodness to hide and cover and conceal so that we can maintain a kind of willful ignorance that protects our innocence. See, the thing is that when the Tea Party was happening, we were saying, pundits, oh, it's just about economic populism. It's not about race. When people knew, social scientists were already writing that what was driving the Tea Party were anxieties about demographic shifts, that the country was changing, that they were seeing these racially ambiguous babies on Cheerios commercials, that the country wasn't quite feeling like it was a white nation anymore. And people were screaming from the top of their lungs, yo, this is not just simply economic populism. This is the ugly underbelly of the country. See, the thing is this, and I'll say this and I'll take the hit on it. There are communities that have had to bear the brunt of America confronting, white Americans confronting the danger of their innocence. And it happens every generation. So somehow we have to kind of, oh my God, is this who we are? And just again, here's another generation of babies. Think about it, that 2-year-old had his bones broken by two parents trying to shield him from being killed. A woman who has been married to this man for as long as I've been on the planet almost, lost her husband. For what? And so what we know is that the country has been playing politics for a long time on this hatred. We know this. So it's easy for us to place it all on Donald Trump's shoulders. It's easy for us to place Pittsburgh on his shoulders. It's easy for me to place Charlottesville on his shoulders. It's easy for us to place El Paso on his shoulders. This is us. And if we're going to get past this, we can't blame it on him. He's a manifestation of the ugliness that's in us. I've had the privilege of growing up in a tradition that didn't believe in the myths and the legends because we had to bear the brunt of them. Either we're going to change, Nicole, or we're going to do this again and again, and babies are going to have to grow up without mothers and fathers, uncles and aunts, friends, while we're trying to convince white folk to finally leave behind a history that will maybe, or embrace a history that might set them free from being white. Finally.
What else?
Lord help us.
Hey there.
Woo!
Good grief.
All right. This is us.
Tell it.
I mean, we'll get back to what that means because it means a lot of things. Let's see here. We also have with us, and just in case we have someone who joined us late, I'm Gary Johnson, the publisher and the founder of BlackMenInAmerica.com. And we have one of our regular panelists, Mr. Jacques Chevalier. He'll get his time. We have our district attorney from Selma, Alabama, who will be on with us. He's our regular, Michael Jackson. Got our co-host, CJ. CJ, I think you've got a special guest, and say something about your special guest and then bring it back to me because I want to say something about your co-host, our facilitator, Mr. Bell.
Sure, yeah. I've got Whiskey Girl here in the house. We are going to be doing an event back in DC November 20th, Saturday, that Thanksgiving weekend. So we're going to just give you more details about that, about what we're going to be doing. Going to be supporting one of our favorite Black-owned businesses back in DC. So we'll keep you posted on that later in the show.
All right. You can't have a moniker that says Whiskey Girl without asking or expecting someone to question you, but we'll get back to that later on. But let's go, because like Mr. Bell said, this is a friendly place for you. But 2022 coming up marks the 50th anniversary of Inside Sports. And wow, 50 years ago, this guy, Mr. Harold Bell, changed the way we looked at sports. Just a few things to note. Harold Bell was the first talk show host to play message music on the radio. And when I say message music, I know because I grew up listening to him in DC. What's Going On? Black and I'm Proud by James Brown. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Wake Up Everybody. Respect Yourself. Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. I mean, all kinds of message music. I see Whiskey Girl swaying over there. We've got the first talk show host to talk sports and politics. And Mr. Bell, I need to find out and have you explain as part of your intro. I mean, Inside Sports was out of DC long before NWA was out of Compton. What does that mean?
Well, what it means, Gary, in 1972, when I came on with Inside Sports, it was unheard of for a sports talk show host to talk politics and sports, to play message music, to have sports media roundtables. That was unheard of. Well, NWA didn't come out till like 1978 or somewhere around there.
Oh, it's longer than that.
They had to go underground. They had to go underground because, they were using cuss words and, talking about killing cops and all that. Well, I was sending the same message on Inside Sports, but I wasn't using cuss words and all that other stuff. I was playing message music. I didn't have to go on underground, but the FCC was watching me closely, so I knew better than to to deviate from what I was doing. So NWA had to go underground because they were just notorious. And like I said, I was out of Washington, D.C. long before they were out of Compton with their message music. My message music was, in the 70s, man, like it was unheard of, man, for a sports a caster to talk about anything besides home runs, how much a guy weighed, what his batting average was. I took it beyond that, man. I went behind to talk about the racism, man, that was that controlled the sports, man, and controlled Black athletes, how Black athletes were getting ripped off. Was nobody talking about that, man. So I really changed the way we talk and report sports all over America and now all over the globe. So what you see these other guys doing, they have followed my format. And so I'm just so thrilled that 50 years later, I can say, man, Inside Sports paved the way for every sports talk show you see or hear in the country. So that's what it was. I was above ground and I was way ahead of my time. That's what that means, Gary. So yeah, okay. I'm pretty proud of that. And I want to say thank you to my wife, who came up with Inside Sports at the dinner table one night. I said, hey, I'm getting ready to do a sports talk show on WOOK. What should I name the show? And she said, Inside Sports, just like that. So Inside Sports is now all over the world because I didn't trademark it like I should have, like my attorney told me to from the very first show. He said, Harold, trademark this name. So here we are 50 years later, man. And I'm proud to be among the living and among you guys. You got it, Gary.
Well, you are still doing it because 50 years later, I think one of the biggest things that we have going on, and anybody can be a part of this discussion, is, I don't know about you all, but I'm sick and tired of these Medicaid Advantage commercials that are on TV. Jimmy Walker, Joe Namath, who else? I mean, you all know who they are.
Joe Theismann, George Foreman. Ridiculous, man.
And what they're doing, they're targeting senior citizens. And I kind of knew that but it really hit home when my sister told me that my mother's getting a lot of calls from these things. And my mother was just curious. I think the whole marketing, the enticement was so much for her that she said, well, let me just call and see, because these celebrities get an extra $107 for this or that. So that made me do some research. So just give me a few minutes. I'm going to tell you some of the things that they don't tell you about these commercials. And we certainly invite anyone from Medicare Advantage or anybody else to come on and debate this, but tell me if I'm wrong. But I've done some research here, and I'll make it very quick. What people know, these plans they're designed to mislead people to sign up for coverage that they may not that regular Medicare already provides, and better quality. These companies are made to look like they're a government entity, but they are for-profit companies. And what Namath doesn't tell you is that if you might face some denials. If you get coverage with one of these programs and you may not be able to go to the doctor that you want to go to. You may be denied some of the lab work and some of the things that your regular Medicare provider would do that. You can't do that with these private companies. Something else that you might think is going on here with these plans is the supplemental coverage. If you get sick, you might find that not only can you not go to your doctor, but your co-pays and your deductibles may skyrocket, just almost into the thousands, not almost, for some people into the thousands. Some of these plans also do not have some of the things that the other Medicare companies have. And so these companies will refuse to pay for some of these other additional services that you need. And if you need long-term care, because they're profit companies, the standard of care for the companies that they hire to take care of you is poor. On average, they just go for the cheapest labor and you get the poorest quality care if you have to need long-term health insurance or health care. Two other things that I noticed that's in here, we can go into this. I'd like to have one of these people on so I can go in detail, is that they say, in terms of the research, all the research I did, if you find that you're being scammed, let your Congress people and your senators know, because they say some of them have been scammed also. And then I'll say something about Tom Selleck, because this is not Medicare, but he's done the reverse mortgage. And a lot of people are signing up for this reverse mortgage because Tom Selleck. Well, Tom Selleck's worth about $45 million. He's on the show Blue Bloods, and he makes about $5 million a year from Blue Bloods. A lot of people should consult their attorney before they sign over their mortgage, but they don't, because Tom Selleck, such a trusted guy, has told you that there's no risk, on Tom Selleck, Magnum PI, Blue Bloods. Anyway, I'm gonna get off my high horse there, because I'm gonna turn it over to you, Mr. Bell, and then we can get into some of the other stuff, because we should be having someone protect us, and that is AARP, which I am a member, but I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, the thing is that AARP is supposed to be the watchdog for senior citizens. They got over 38 million members. So I'm saying, why isn't AARP taking time out to, go through these programs with George Foreman and Joe Namath and Joe Theismann, even my man, I can't even think of the name, the actor, black actor, Jimmy Walker, the comedian. All these folks are coming out, but why doesn't AARP take the lead and boil it down to two and put it out there to senior citizens, say, select between the two? They don't need to be causing all this confusion. And we got senior citizens like, I've been scammed, I've been scammed. So we gotta have more protection for senior citizens. Senior citizens are being scammed annually for $2 billion. I'm sorry, $2 billion. They're being scammed, and ARP got all that money. Why don't they have a scam unit? Why don't they have a scam unit to protect senior citizens? And Gary, as you know, we've been on this for a long time and you're doing some research on it, but somebody need to come aboard and tell us why senior citizens are not being taken care of the way that they should. And I just had a problem with my doctor who I've been with for 20 years. 20 years, man. This guy, I mean, he's a part of the scammers out there. And he got equal time if you want to come on of course, Speak the Truth. This guy, a couple of months ago, I went for an office visit like we usually do for the past 20 years. I go for 2 office visits. He charges me $374. That's unheard of. So I said, hold it. So I write a letter. I said, hold it, Doc, what are you doing? Well, they claim that I am with Kaiser Permanente. I've been with Medicare all my life and the 20 years that I've been there. And he's been collecting from Medicare. So it's not only, this is his office, this is his building people who are building me. So the blame comes back to him. He should have checked it. He said, Hattie and Harold have been with me for 20 years. Why did Harold leave Hattie with Medicare and he went with Kaiser Permanente? So I had to go through Kaiser Permanente, get them to counsel that. I don't know how they got my name, but I blame it on him because he's so busy dealing with big pharma coming in and out his office. Big pharma people are coming in with, they go back there, they got their little briefcase, they clean and everything. They walk right past the patients who are waiting and go in the back to deal with the doctor. So he's spending that much time with these folks. He needs a traffic cop for that, man, to direct them. I found out that he left one patient during the pandemic. She was almost going on 100 years old. He left her in one of his rooms while he out there dealing with big pharma. Yeah, so we got some big problems, man, and we need to take care of it. And Dr. Swaby, you need to get on your job, man, because I ain't scared of you. I ain't scared.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we now know it's complicated, and I'm going to work with to see if I can get somebody from AARP on here to see what's going on. We've got from Selma, Michael Jackson. What can people do? What can people do about this before we shift topics?
Well, I'm glad you got on this subject. I'm glad you did your research on this. My mom discusses that J.J. Walker, Jimmy
Walker.
Jimmy Walker.
All the time, because she said he looked so fake and phony. She never believed in that stuff. He does just come across as fake on there. But anyway, I'm glad y'all discussing all these issues because my mom, she does her research on the insurance. She got every kind of insurance you can think of. And she go to the doctor at least once or twice every 2 weeks. So that's how she gets out the house and goes. But y'all left out one thing, and I'm gonna get to the reverse mortgage in a minute. But one other thing that they scam senior citizens on, and not just senior citizens, others, but really senior citizens, and that's buying a car.
Oh yes.
When a person goes to buy a car, man, they take advantage of them every which way. You can't even hardly figure out what that happened when they come to you about buying a car. That happened to my mom, and some of the fees I just didn't understand when she brought it up later. And I'm telling you, the car she bought a brand new car, but it seemed like that car was in a wreck or something. I drove it when I went down to Atlanta. I drove the car, and I could tell something was wrong. And she was telling me about the miles on it, and it just seemed like it had more miles than it should have for a new car. So that's another thing that people need to watch out for, the scamming of the buying of these cars, whether it's a new car or a used car. When you're an elderly person and they think they can take advantage of you, they your friends while you're there. After you leave there, you try to call these folks up, they never want to hear back from the folks. So now on this reverse mortgage stuff, I had an uncle. who did the reverse mortgage, and I'm telling you, that for most people, I'm not saying on everybody, but that's another scam I agree with Gary on, because when he got ready to die, he was telling my cousin, hey, I'm leaving you this house and this and that. Man, that thing had he was so in debt with that reverse mortgage thing. She just had to let the house go because they bamboozle you into what a great situation it is, how you can get all this extra cash, but all you do is get in debt. And so I throw all that out, but I did want to throw out the car stuff too, because people are getting ripped off with buying cars, senior citizens.
Jacques, come on, I know you got something to say. Jacques.
I was one of those who got duped on the, I just started getting Medicare last year when I turned 65. And I got duped on the secondary insurance. I realized after going to the first doctor visit, two things I want to point out. The deductible is so high, even when you're paying the monthly fee. And if you're in pretty good health, you'll never reach deductible. So you're wasting, I think it was like $60 a month, somewhere around in there. And it could be anywhere from $45 to $95 a month. They trick you and you got to talk to them to get the price down. And I actually had about 3 to 4 different companies call me. I ended up getting the price down. Then about 3 months later, 4 months later, something like that, I canceled it because I realized with me being in such good health, I was never going to make I want to say it was like maybe a $6,000, $7,000 plateau that you had to reach in terms of deductible that you had to pay out of your own pocket. So I realized I wasn't going to reach that. The other thing that I want to point out, and it's something I had my wife do. She was reluctant to do it at first because everybody want to think the doctor knows everything in the world, and they're just like us. You know, they have to go to the bathroom. But and I'll leave that there. But I was going every 3 months to see the doctor to get medications for 3 months at a time. And I have another a first cousin who's a doctor, who's an allergist. And I went to her and I said, look, I really need to see the doctor every 3 months. She says, no, you just tell him, you know, you're getting the same medicines for like 6-7 years now. And so now I go twice a year. I get 6 months of medication. Some doctors will try to tell you, well, no, you got to come back every 3 months. They won't do 6 months medication. Oh, yes, they will. And I belong to Costco. And so the other part of the equation is that I get medicine is actually cheaper for me to pay out of pocket than it is to go through insurance, which is unbelievable. So that's something that I think that a lot of us need to be aware of. Now I have my wife going to the doctor twice a year. And this one doctor she had over at Doctor's Hospital was pulling in there like, it seems like every 6 to 8 weeks. And I said, no, you ain't got to do that no more. You just like I am, you get going for the same thing. And my wife is in darn good health, like your wife, Harold. You know, we married good, brother, you know? So that's something that I think is very, very important. You don't need to go to see them that often, you know, and you can get your medications you can probably get the medications for a year. But I decided to go twice a year because I figured, you know, that's timely enough. So that was, and I did fight, and I got the secondary insurance counsel. When you go to call back, they send you through 6-7 different people. They try to pretend like and as you very well know, Harold. And so, but I fought them because I was determined. You know, having been a salesman myself, I knew that I quickly realized that I was being sold. And so I got out of it. I don't have secondary insurance. Medicare pays 80% of my insurance. And being that I'm in pretty good health, if I get hit with something, I think that, you know, I can afford it without having to pay that monthly fee. So that's what I want to contribute to the discussion.
Okay, CJ, come on in and introduce your guest and tell us what's on your mind.
Yeah, like I said, sorry about those ads too. I don't watch TV and I haven't been subjected to those weird ads, but I've heard they're annoying. But yeah, like we're here to talk about, we're doing a show on November 20th. I have Whiskey Girl here who is hosting and headlining and doing all types of amazing things and making all this stuff happen. So we're going to be in Washington, D.C. at Culture Coffee 2. Excellent establishment. Love the people that work there. And Whiskey, you can explain things better than I can. So you can bring it home.
Whiskey?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on your show. This is really cool. No, I really enjoyed the first clip that you played because as the conversation's going, I was thinking this is us, this is America, and the type of thing that we do. And what we do is we stress people out with these processes and systems, and we take away from what they have to give to the world. So all of my events, I'm a spoken word artist, but I guess I'm a musician now because I have CJ, who is a mean guitar player. I don't know if you guys knew. But what we do is much larger than just having shows. It's basically, as a spoken word artist, telling the story of what it is to tell your full story. These things are good, to tell your story about the scams that's happening among senior citizens, to just speak the truth and do so in a way that people understand that we're supposed to tell our stories. We're supposed to emotionally connect. We're supposed to do the work to look in the mirror and see the bad parts of ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. So I tell my story. It's very much the story of accountability, the story of what happens when there's a cause and effect. So I talk about Black girl stories. I talk a lot about mental health issues that Black women deal with. And I just love the symbolism of having CJ, because the way we work together is that there is no gender war. It's just I'm telling my story, and here's a man who's playing me, who's got my back, showing the protective aspect and helping me to tell that story to the masses. So what we do is really special to me, and we just came off of a summer show. And this one is an open mic that's geared toward people just getting on the mic and telling their stories. And you'd be amazed by the synergy that happens in the room, how people open up and start to see themselves. So I think what we do is super important. And yeah, this is a Friendsgiving. It's donation based for the ticket. So anybody who wants to support this movement, myself and CJ, and then we have another bass player that plays with us sometimes, Jacques the Butte. We're just going around showing that gender war, no, but there's the story we all tell, and there's the story of how women and men fit together in protection and in allowing ourselves to be ourselves authentically. So that's the overall message, but the underlying thing is like, we gonna party. It's Whiskey Girl.
Okay. I want to go back before I introduce my special guest. I want to go back to Michael and talking about about his mother buying this car, and you cannot trust these car dealerships. Not only are we being scammed by the banks, by the doctors, car dealerships, attorneys, politicians, cable TV companies, insurance companies, nursing homes, and con artists who are sometimes our next door neighbors and can be our family. I remember when I got kicked off the air one time. I had to go find another job. And I went to a car dealership and became a salesman because I had a name. They brought me in. I had never sold cars before. It was up on Georgia Avenue, way up in Silver Spring. And I went through the paces, man. And this little old white lady came in, and I was selling her the car, and she was going to trade in her car. She had a nice car, man. Nice. I said, miss, do you sell this on your own? They are not going to give you the money that you deserve. She said, oh, thank you so much, Mr. Bell. Thank you so much. And boy, when she got back there with the salesman, and she told him what I said, they fired me right away. I said, man, never again would I go sell cars, man. Man, do not, man. These car dealerships are taking advantage of everybody, not only senior citizens, but everybody, man. That's why I would never, I don't care if I'm down, I would never sell another car. But right now, I want to bring in one of my young men that came out of my Kids in Trouble program, the Hillcrest Children's Center Saturday program. This past Saturday, Hattie and I went to a church that he is now the pastor of. He got his own church. And when I tell you about spiritual rewards, how they come back, 50 years after the fact, man, that I am still reaping those spiritual rewards. And man, I was so proud of Ricky Williams and his wife, Sharon, that they now have their own church on Old Branch Avenue. And man, this is not just been about me helping him as a young person. He helped me, man, when I was having problems, man. I was without a car, and he would leave his car parked over there by Branch Avenue when he'd go to work in the morning. And I was living, I don't know where I was living, but I would go over there and get the key to his car and use his car to drive downtown. That's the kind of reach back, man, that we have reached back to help each other. And I would like to welcome Ricky to the show, because Ricky not only went on to become an outstanding worker for the subway folks. He was there, must have been 25 years or whatever. And then they called him back as a consultant, and then he got into the religion. He was hanging in there, and now he has his own church. I would like to welcome my dear brother, my little brother, Ricky Williams. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm great. How are you doing, Mr. Bill?
All right, we can't hear you. Speak up.
Oh boy, let me see.
Can you turn it up?
I don't know. Boy, can you?
We can hear you a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, no, he just muted himself.
Oh, did you mute yourself?
There we go. Now you're unmuted. There we go.
Okay, and I guess I'll talk a little loud. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm glad to be here. I was interested in the discussions about Medicare, and blow my mind, because I had thought something was going on, but I never looked into it. And typical of advertisements and all that, but I'm glad you guys are covering that subject.
Okay, tell us about your church, man. How about being a new pastor, man? We need some new blood. We need new blood, man.
But I'm just not pastoring, but I've been a minister for years, and I was able to succeed a good friend of mine. He's an older gentleman, and he wanted me to come in, so I'm glad to be there at this time of my life, so that I can kind of be still and be in place where I can help others. One of the things I want to do is like what you did for us, Mr. Bell. I want to reach back to the inner city, or for guys that are going through different struggles, and be there to help them find themselves. All of us are smart, and we just have to sometimes find out where we're smart at. I became a software engineer at Metro, and Lord blessed me to learn my skill set. And I find a lot of the guys that grow up in rough neighborhoods, they're very talented, they're very smart. They just need to learn where to put their intelligence at. And that's what my primary motive is to go back and help others find themselves.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Ricky, for coming back and reaching back. I'd like to welcome our dear friend. Of course, he's a regular here, Mr. Lawrence Lugas. Lawrence, how are things going? And what would you like to say to participate in the discussion? Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, we're in the throes of another administration. But before that, I would like to thank the gentleman, the Reverend. I was late coming in. My computer was a little slow today. And I just want to thank this young man who is now taking over this new church and this new responsibility, to let him know that we need people like him. We need people that are in the spiritual world who cares about others. And I think it's important that he is reaching back and is going to work at some of the areas, or in some of the areas and some of the concerns that we all have, and that is our young Black men, and bringing along others to come in and support him. So I think that that's admirable that we do have Black preachers still committed to the spiritual being as well as the physical being of those so many left behind. On the other hand, I wanted to maybe mention the fact that we're now in the throes of this administration, and we're waiting to find out what the results are going to be with relationship of the restructuring bill. I would hope to think that we will put pressure on this administration to make sure that our communities are not left out of this reinvention or this redevelopment of or the restructuring that is getting ready to go on in America. My concern is that we have a tendency to leave out our communities when you talk about transportation, when you talk about health, when you talk about economic concerns that will benefit Black people and minority people. Many times, I would find that our leaders have a tendency to forget that we exist. So we're in the throes of watching what's going to happen to Black farmers. At the same time, I'm interested in what's going to happen to Black America as we restructure and use these billions of dollars to improve our communities around the country, both rural communities as well, Black rural communities, as well as Black urban communities.
Mm-hmm. You know, I want to get back. I want to go back because this is a issue that I want Michael and all the rest of you to address. Do not be surprised if that white boy in Minnesota, the one in Georgia, they had from do not be surprised that they get off. You know, do not be surprised. Here we got this clown, tears of a clown. He on TV crying, man, fake tears after he done shot and killed 2 white men and wounded another. And down in Georgia, Aubrey's trial, they got 11 white jurors, man. Do y'all realize that? Man, in Minnesota, what's happening? The judge admonished the prosecutor, man. And now they're in a position to make a possibility of mistrial. Michael, where do we stand there, Michael?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you that all of these folk might get off. I can't say that ain't going to happen because
wow,
the judge in one of those cases seemed to be very hostile to the victims. And he, I can't remember which one. No, the one in Georgia is the one that made that Asian joke. The one with the trial with the 11 white jurors. That just make jokes about Asians, and so, and then you got the other trial where the judge don't even want to call the victims, but they can be called thugs or whatever. But he's allowing that, and if y'all remember that case in Minnesota, that young man walked down the street with his guns, with the police right out there, and nobody stopped him. He's just walking all the way down the street. And I think most African Americans will quickly say that had that been them with all that going on, for the African American young teenager or young guy walking down the street with those guns, the police would have pulled their guns out on him and maybe even killed him, shot him or something. But that guy was allowed to walk all the way down the street without being stopped. He had his guns out and everything. He was underage. He wasn't supposed to have the guns. They never stopped him until on down the road. So I can't sit there and say these folk won't get off because you've seen this over and over. It's rare. It's happening a little more now over the last couple of years, but it's rare for officers to get convicted when they go on trial for the unauthorized use of force, or that situation with that young white teenager, or however old he is. You're right, he killed 2 whites, but you know, until you remind her that your mind automatically think he killed 2 blacks until you kind of reminded her, but psychologically you think he killed 2 blacks in your mind. I had to think about that twice because Even though I knew it was two whites, in my mind kind of thought he had killed two blacks, even though I had read and seen where it was two whites. So, but to be quite frank, those whites are not gonna get the just, those white victims might not get the justice they normally would be getting. And that's bad. So anyway.
Okay, Gary, come on, Gary.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Like you said, tears of a clown. He's clearly, in my view, been coached. He's a 17-year-old with an assault rifle walking down the street. I mean, what is there to say? It won't be surprising if it does get off. The judge clearly has a different kind of personality than one would think. Judge. CJ, you've been following the case closely?
Yeah, I mean, I have been following it closely, and as you said, he seems clearly coached. I think Tony Baker, the comedian, said it better. Like, I mean, his testimony had my eyes drier than the baby powder aisle at Walmart. Like, there's no emotions. Like, I mean, he couldn't even squeeze out a fake tear. So, I mean, he needed to brush up on his acting lessons. But it's even worse. Like, the judge's phone went off in the courtroom, and it was the same song that is the Trump rally, like theme song. And that literally happened. Like, this is like, we don't even need The Onion or like parody anymore. Like, this is a real life headline that happened in the courtroom. As Mr. Bell said, he's been hostile to the prosecution, like just outwardly, like pretty much on this kid's team. He's like, he's a part of the defense team, basically, the judge. It's really, really weird and bizarre how open and brazen it is. But again, just because you are walk free doesn't mean you're innocent. I mean, we got OJ out here walking around. So it's not surprising. We know that the criminal justice system is, designed in a certain way for certain people to not face the same consequences. So I don't think it's anything surprising about where we are in America and about, all these judges. Donald Trump in his 4 years stacked the courts with a lot of really, really far right conservative judges who have like-minded thinking. So when young Black people all across this country go up or for any type of crime, they're going to be going up against judges with Trump ringtones and, white sheets in their closets that they're hiding and, tiki torches and whatnot. And that's just the climate that we're in nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I was just curious, Mr. Bell, of Whiskey Girl, spoken word artists. How current are you there, Whiskey Girl, with some of this stuff?
I have to stay pretty current on it, although I don't want to, but I talk about Black mental wellness as it relates to white supremacy, so I'm pretty up on it. I would say my perspective as a mother of Black children is that we're in an uncomfortable time where all the gaslights of America are just being blown wide open. And one of the biggest gaslights has been that Black children are dangerous and white children are innocent and their appropriate age or should be perceived as younger and more innocent. And I think that we're kind of blowing open the concept that our children are being desensitized to a lot of things very early, and we have to watch how we treat them and the morals that we put into them and how we hold them accountable. And accountability has to seep down into younger ages because they've been exposed to so much, and we can't pretend that white children are more innocent when they're the perpetuators of a lot of violence and bullying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jacques?
I totally agree that this judge, he's outright biased. He has white privilege. As CJ noted, the phone that went off playing the Donald Trump music in the background, and he didn't bother even apologize to the court. He didn't bother to say, hey, sorry, my phone went off. He just shut it off and looked up at everybody as well to say, hey, I'm the judge. I do what I want. That's the mentality that he has exhibited throughout this trial. He's also, which nobody's noted, but I'll make note of now, is that the judge has already said that he is he's leaning towards reducing the charge or charges against Rittenhouse. I think it's his last name, right? Rittenhouse.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, and it's just unimaginable as a Black man that we could, get this kind of treatment from a judge if we were on trial. It's not going to change anytime soon. And because Donald Trump has stacked the courts throughout the nation, The other judges who were borderline openly racist can now be outright overt with it. So that's where we are now, and that's where we're going to be for a long, long time to come. And I really wish that some of our leaders would quit worrying about partying. It's okay, whiskey girl, to party. I party too, but I'm not a leader, you know? And may I also say to you, whiskey girl, vous êtes très charmante et bonne chance, enchanté, madame. That just
I don't
means
know
you're
what that
very-
means, but all right.
Look,
Come on in, Lawrence.
that just means that you're a pretty girl in French, that's all. And nice.
Thank you.
Okay, Lawrence, come on in, then we'll get to Ricky. Come on, Lawrence.
Well, the only thing I have to add is that there's no question that this issue is now before the American public, and we will see exactly how much justice is going to come out of what's going on in these two cases. And I've only touched, and I had a hard time looking and viewing the screen doing this. So I don't have as much detail about it and what's going on, because what I did watch was so disheartening that I have to be frank with you, when I turned it off, I never got back to it. We're in for hard times, and what this is going to do is open up the field for white people to walk down the street in any place in this country with a gun. And if you're white, it's all right. If you're black, you're going to be punished for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ricky, what how you feel about this?
Well, we'll see how it goes, but I think the white victims stand a chance. You know, if you're black, then it's another story. But it's going to be interesting to see how the white victims pan out. You know, because they do have some balance that they are white. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's white privilege. I want to go to Gary. I want to go to King Richard. You guys, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a new movie out called King Richard, talking about the trials of tribulation of Venus and Serena's father. And King Richard is played by Will Smith. And I want to take you to Indian Wells, when these young ladies and their parents first went out to Indian Wells, which is an affluent community, you know, where everybody, every house has a Rolls Royce or Bentley or whatever you want to call it. But listen to this as we watch this video here. This was
now, which one do you want? Do you want the interview with the woman or
no, I want this first. I want this first. I want
this one right here. Okay, here we go.
The crowd again.
Crowd.
It's a long walk down to the courtside box. A few people started to applaud. And then in a minute, there's going to be a heckler. I'm not really sure what we're going to see, but Richard actually stopped and looked at somebody, and it was a very tense situation. I've never seen anything like this in a tennis match.
It's pretty amazing. It's incredible that the crowd booed for so long. I had heard rumors before the match that some people were unhappy and might go out there to boo, but it was the majority of the crowd.
I actually talked to a tournament official as we see Serena's numbers beforehand, and they actually talked to the ushers, anticipating that this might get a little bit out of hand, and just trying to get the ushers to make sure they kept people under control. Here was Richard after the heckler and more boos. Reminiscing a little bit of the '68 Olympic scene, a flashback, and Richard Williams now is taking his seat beside the court, and Kim Clijsters will start things off. We'll get back to tennis now.
I want y'all to remember, these were two young girls, you know. Serena must have been about 20, and of course, Venus must have been about 20, and Serena was 19. This was their first, you know, venture into an affluent community like this. Richard, Indian Wells, of course, is one of the one of the most affluent cities in the country. And this was 2001. Well, after this match there, Venus and Serena did not return to Indian Wells until 15 years later. They decided they were not going back. They were called all kinds of niggas. They even call them niggas in French. Understand? They call them everything, man. And this was in 2001. This wasn't 1901 or 1801. And like our man said, this is us. This is us, man. How they treated those young girls. So when you see what's going on in professional sports, all these places are still plantations, man. And I take my hat off to Richard Williams, man. That took a lot of courage, man. He said, "To hell with him," and he gave him the Black Power sign, man. You know, he could have been killed right out there, man. So this picture, I understand, is out of sight. That Will Williams plays an exciting part in that. And I just want to get you guys feeling on this now that these young ladies have proven to be the greatest in the game. They both were ranked number one, number two, behind each other, unheard of. Two young ladies out of Compton, man, and the success that they had. So we all should be proud of them. But remember that this is us. So come on in, my man, Chris. Come on in, Chris.
Yeah. Where did you want to go from here? I
want you to comment on what you saw happening in Indian Wells and how they treated these young Black girls, man, young Black women, in 2001.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprise about that, especially in the sport that they're playing in, and the gatekeeping that would happen in those communities. It's even more egregious. They would face the same obstacles, in any sport, but especially, when you're talking about the world of tennis and the whiteness and the privilege of certain sports, there's certainly levels to it. And, there's not a lot of young Black kids doing that. So yeah, there's going to be a certain amount that they're going to be threatening the white establishment just by being great, just by, doing their own thing. So like you said, the hell with them. They're going to hate you regardless. It's one of those things, like, even if you try to bend over backwards to try to fit in, you'll never fit in their eyes. So you might as well blaze your own path. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, Whiskey Girl, as a Black woman, watching that, how did you feel about that?
I actually felt triumphant because I think that hopefully this movie and telling this story will get Black men to rise up and realize what their protection brings to Black women. That man was raising queens. The fact that they went in there covered by their father, unbothered, he put up the Black Power sign, and then they didn't show up there again. That's how you let people know your value. Like, y'all can act like this one time and we won't be back there again. And they went on to be superstars, and it's like, you can't deny that they're queens. You can't deny that he raised queens. And I know with the negativity, I know what America's on, so I don't be bothered to a certain extent. I always look at the collateral beauty and how Black people show up in these situations, and like, bravo. I just got so empowered looking at that. Like, you better cover those babies.
Gary, let's go back to the other video where Richard is being interviewed by this white lady as he talks about his trials and tribulations. Watch how he puts her in her place.
Ball and serving the way she served. Natural people would say what they said. They didn't want to see that, but they had no other choice but to see it.
But why, for a man who grew up with such racism and saw his daughters fight against similar racism? Why choose those words? Little white no good trasher in America.
Well, I think that what I live by what people allow me to live by at one time. Today I live by what I want to live by. And if I was called trash, why can't I repeat the same word? I was called worse than trash. So if I had used the word that I was called, then maybe I might say, okay, maybe that was wrong. I don't see nothing wrong with what I said, little white trash. And that's what I felt they was then, and I yet might feel the same way to this day, simply because of what I was called. See, I didn't start the tennis junk. They the one started it, but they thought that by starting it, that they could keep us down. You can keep us down. You can't keep us away. So I would strongly say to them that if you don't want me to call you little white trash, don't pick at me and don't pick at my kids. Like the same thing you probably would do if someone picked at your little son or your daughter. Maybe you might not say nothing, but you wouldn't go back. Yes?
Why not try and
It's a
change the
hell of a
environment?
thing. No, I can't change an environment that's prejudiced. Before I came to America, America yet is the same way. That's why we have so many problems. Little black boys and girls getting shot and killed right now, simply because people haven't stepped up to do nothing about it. Everyone is saying it's okay. No, it's not okay. If I see trash, I'm going to call it trash. I was taught to tell the truth, and that's exactly what I do, and I have no fear of nothing.
And
that little son I have, he won't have any either.
And given that you're so outspoken, do you?
I wouldn't say I'm that outspoken. I've seen people call me the worst names in the world that I don't hear you commenting about right now. Did you read the story at Indian Wells when Serena, what they called me and what they did? Well, let's talk about that now. I was called niggers and everything else. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how Venus never did anything at all what she was called. Let's talk about Charles Passarelli, the terminal owner there, what he did and how he lied. I said the right thing then, I say it now, and I don't back down.
You certainly don't.
No, not at all. That's no need. My mom didn't teach me to back down. Mom taught me that I was a man. She said, you're a child, but one day you'll be a man. And as a man, if you say it, don't back away.
Well, I'm not going to back down either. I want to continue our
Woo!
conversation.
Thank you. Hey, man.
Richard Williams got a little Harold Bell in him or something, or vice versa.
Man, yeah, he's bad brother, man. Come on in, Jacques. Come on, we can get down to the last minute. Everybody take a minute.
I think it's always enlightening and inspirational when Black men and those who are making money will speak the truth, don't hide back, don't hold back. And I think I've always been the same way all my life. My mother had 7 children. I was the only one who got suspended in kindergarten because a teacher smacked me. And when she turned around, I took my foot and put it between her butt. And so out of 7 children, I'm the only one who got suspended in kindergarten. True story. At Lucy Ellen Moulton over in Southeast DC, up on the hill. So I respect people who speak up. That's what I want to say.
Okay, Michael, come on in, Michael.
I'm gonna say this. I think it was good of Will Smith to do this movie. You know, he counseled getting in the Suicide Squad sequel to make sure he did this movie. I guess he realized the importance of it. As everybody knows, Serena is pretty much considered the best female tennis player ever. And her sister not far behind. You know, she got to be in the top 10. So they've overcome a whole lot. I think the dad even set up some tennis school in Montgomery years ago, but Montgomery, Alabama. But anyway, we can only imagine what these young ladies went through to get to where they are. And you know, Serena still catches. Man, sometimes they get happy if she makes some mistake or gets hurt or this and that, the crowd. It's just kind of sad.
It is. Okay, Lawrence?
I think the one thing that came out in that conversation was the fact that he addressed his experiences. And so often we have a tendency to couch our words because of the environment and not wanting to harm other people and say the truth. We need to always tell the truth where our Black lives, where our women and our children and our Black boys and our Black men and their lives are being put in jeopardy. We don't have to apologize when white people call us niggers. We don't have to apologize for using the word. They want to always tell us that, well, you can't use the word, Lawrence, because it's harsh, the N word. When I'm writing and I'm talking about the problem, I'm going to call it like it is and not the way they want it to be. And that's what I heard. And that's where we are. And welcome to America.
Amen. Whiskey girl, come on, baby. Give us the 1 minute.
Sorry, I'm just so excited, especially the fact that he told the truth and he pushed it back on her, because that's another gaslight. And journalists have used that I guess methodology, and now people use it where they try to switch it around and make you the villain. And he brought out truth. No, I'm not the villain. These are the people who said it first. So don't try to make me the villain. And when you speak facts like that, people can't really say anything. All you can do is sit back and go, brother.
Amen. Amen. Gary?
Richard Williams is a genius. I mean, you think about what he did. Yeah, he was unorthodox, but he raised arguably two of the greatest tennis players in the world. And Michael Jackson says Serena, the best female, Serena might be the best tennis player ever.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Male or female.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may have been unorthodox, but he was fearless. He spoke the truth. I got no problem. And I saw Serena on TV talking about the movie, and she said that as she and her sister were executive producers, but they said that movie, she had to double take because when she watched it, there were flashbacks. Will Smith did a great job being her father, she said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, CJ.
Yeah, it was great. I'm a huge proponent of aggressively pushing back against smears or against gaslighting or against, any trickery or any beating around the bush. And that's how you have to do it in no uncertain terms. Like Whiskey was saying, you can't let them frame the argument and let them try to twist your words and let them try to misconstrue you or try to lead you down a certain path. So if they try to smear you, like if there's one thing I think you could take away from Donald Trump that is, that you could use for your own life, it's aggressively push back against stuff, like against narrative, so you control the narrative. Like that is what you need to do. And I think he did a great job of that, of not letting her frame the conversation and being like, no, I'm not taking it too far. I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you exactly what the type of things that they called me, and I'm gonna break it down, in no uncertain terms. So there's no gray area. And I love it. Yeah.
I want to say, as we get out of here, I was just thinking about, they always talking about us using the race card. They invented the race card. The race card. They want to know how we're always using the race card, man. And
it don't work half the time.
yeah, I want to say, man, that this guy, Dr. Peter Swaby, man, I'm embarrassed, man, because we got people who come over here from the islands. They are taught that when they leave the islands, you are not black. And some of my great friends are from the islands. Well, we got certain of them that come over here that don't think they black. And Peter Swaby is one of them. He's one of them. This is the letter he sent me after he overcharged me. And I called him out just like he should have been. He sends me this letter to me and my wife. Dear Mr. Harold Bell, this letter is to inform you that 30 days from the date of this letter, we will no longer be responsible for your care. It is my strong feeling that you are not getting the medical attention required by your condition. The reason for the dismissal is marked below. And down here below, he has marked that I verbally abused his medical staff. Now, how do you know that's a lie? He got two nice ladies, not black, they Asian or something, but they sweet as they can be. He put this in writing, man. He said, other verbal abuse shown in my email dated 11/3/21. This notice is being sent to you to allow you time to find a physician who will provide you with adequate care. If you find you have difficulty locating a physician, please call this office and we will do our best to suggest other physicians in the area who may be able to provide the care you need. Sincerely, Dr. Peter Swaby. Then this second piece came real short. Hello, Harold and Hattie. Harold, the email that you sent on November 3rd, 2021 was brought to my attention. In the 25 years that I've been in practice, I've never heard of such a disdain and disrespect shown to me or my office. This was a billing issue that you could have resolved. The relationship between you and our office is irreparable, and I am dismissing you from our office. Enclosed is a letter of dismissal. Sincerely, Peter Sweeney. Now, this is a brother that don't want to hear the truth as long as it's about himself, but he want to hear the truth when it's about somebody else. You understand? When you call him out, and man, this is the second brother from the islands that I had a problem with. Gary, down at the Miracle Theater, this brother had promised to be a sponsor. We had his name up in the credits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had his name up in the credits, his restaurant and everything, and he did nothing to promote the show. He didn't show up or anything. So I was getting ready to go at him hard. And he had a lawyer, one of these old jack-legged lawyers, send me a cease and desist. And I was really getting ready to go to war with him. But my friend who introduced me to this guy who owned the restaurant, he said, Harold, back up, please. You know, I appreciate you back up. That is the only reason that I backed off. Now, I don't care which way Swaby come from. I don't care, man. But these are the kind of people that we got to expose, man. We got to let the community know these people don't care anything about us. They may look like us, but they are not about us, man. So, I want to thank all of you guys, man. Of course, Jacques and wait, Lady Whiskey, come back here. Lady, you hear me? Come back, baby. And Michael, you're always on the one. And Lawrence and my brother, of course, Ricky Williams, the new pastor out there on Old Branch Avenue, and Chris. You guys are fantastic, man. And we got to keep putting this information out, man. Let people hear. Gary, where do we stand with Black men in America? People, they must underestimate Black men in America and how we're being heard all over the world. How we stand there?
Well, I can give you a few things. I do the analytics. We've got followers in 92 countries. We're probably ranked in the category of African-American online communities. We're usually ranked number 6, somewhere around number 5 or 6. I looked at the countries that follow us. I would have thought, you know, outside of the United States, that some of the countries would be, you know, maybe some African countries or Canada or UK. It's China and Indonesia are the most countries after that. UK and Canada are like number 5 and 6. But we get, and maybe that's, I don't know, maybe it's military or China. Maybe China thinks we're a threat and they're just watching us closely. Who knows, you know? But so that is where we are in terms of columnists. And I look for, you know, people get on Google, what do they search for? How do they find us? The number one columnist that people seem to go for is Harold Bell. So you're like the number one. The items that people search for on Google that bring them to us, how do you defend an EEO suit? The Master Tonic, that stuff that I drink, tonic is one of the things that people search for, they find us. And the things about political stuff that we write in terms of commentary. So we're out there. People know that we're out there. And so I'd like to just continue us just being influenced, and maybe we can get a little more traction. We've got Speak the Truth. We've got to get something with Mr. Lucas going on so we can let people know what's going on with the plight of the Black farmers. I'm going to do something called Calculations on a show to bring different perspectives for how people have to make these calculations every day. So we just did a little engine that could. So that's where we are. We just keep tracking along. And you're the man, Mr. Bell. So you know how you.
I just want to say, man, I finally, this is my new book. It's 50-year anniversary of Inside Sports. And it's 20 pages, but 20 great pages, man, that tell the story of all the great interviews, not all of them, I couldn't get all of it, but 20 great stories, man. And the cover is about Muhammad Ali. You see there's something about Muhammad Ali on this whole cover, man. So this is my new book, man. Also, I have an ancestry book that I did on my family and went back and pulled up my great uncle, who was a civil rights leader in Sumter, South Carolina. And there he is right there up here at the top. And you see over in the right corner, you see Donovan Mitchell. He's my cousin, my brother Earl in the boxing stands below. And that's my family, is an in crowd right there. My cousins and my mother in the middle. So man, it's been great, man. I didn't have time to do 300 or 400 pages of my autobiography. So I said I better get something down so people will know that I was here and I made a difference, man. So I want to thank all of you guys, man, for participating in Black Men in America, the original Inside Sports, and of course, Speak the Truth, man. Our story has to get out. We cannot, depend on Ken Burns doing our story, which he's doing. He's doing stories on PBS of Jackie Robinson, Jack Johnson, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali. He never walked in our shoes. Why can't we tell our own stories, man? They don't know our history, and they don't want to know it. That's why, man, I was so glad to see my cousin Donovan Mitchell stand up in Utah against the critical race theory they were trying to bar from all the schools. He went up against the legislatures in Utah, and they voted it down. So this young brother is making a difference, man, but he's following behind my great uncle and following behind me. So, hey, until next time, remember that every Black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. And remember, Whiskey Girl, you cannot soar with eagles if you hang out with chickens.
Hey, Whiskey Girl, give us a plug now. You can ready to do your show. Give us a plug and take us out, Whiskey Girl.
Give you a plug. You want an excerpt or what's
Give us something. We don't get a guest like you very often. Give us something. You got a show coming up. Give us something. Take us out for 30 seconds.
Okay. I'll do Black Man. I have loved you since birth, since baby soft skin touch baby grin, since, oh shoot, I'm messing up that poem. I'll do another one. I'll do Pressure.
We wouldn't have known anyway.
I didn't go out like that. I'll just do one that I know, Pressure, and yeah. Gotta consider braces to close the gap because they say it's unprofessional. And I think to myself, how the heck do they know how God chooses a face to show up in this world? People will make you so damn tired of being a girl. They'll make you forget what it is to love pretty and laugh ugly and be enjoyed for something other than a conquest, and the expectation to always show up as your best even though you tired, brain so cluttered, you not showing up clever, you just belly and lonely and things ain't gonna get no better. It's just pressure. And that's just a poem about being Black, and CJ accompanies me on guitar with that. We're gonna hit that one on November 20th along with a couple of other poems talking about Black mental wellness, the Black experience, and also we're gonna party and vibe. So catch us on the 20th, that's Saturday, at Black owned, woman owned Culture Coffee 2. I would love to have you guys there. And you guys are local, so I want to see some faces in the building. I'm just saying.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Be safe.
Hi, I'm Harold Bell. My wife Hattie and I found the nonprofit organization in 1968, shortly after the riots that almost destroyed my hometown, Washington, D.C. The program caters to the needs of at-risk children as it relates to social services such as education, law enforcement, drug abuse, gang-related violence, and other antisocial behavior.